The mark of the Christ life is love. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group, part number 4, A Legacy of Love. As we're looking at the great controversy and what are the central issues? Am I going to love God and others, or am I going to love myself? This is the choice that all of us have. And so as we continue to encourage each other to make that choice to love God, let's talk about the legacy of love. Before we do that, we want to thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video, and we appreciate you visiting us online at changeministry.org. The mark of the Christ life. The Christ life. It's another way of saying being a Christian, right? As a Christian, I'm no longer living on my own terms. I'm living by God for God. We've talked about that. And I recognize now the purpose of my life, my mindset, is that everything that I'm in, it's for God's sake. So the sign, what should we be looking for as evidence to that? We kind of touched on this a little bit yesterday, but we're going to put it in one word: love. It's the mark of being a Christian. We see it here in John chapter 13 and verse 35, where the master himself says, "By this shall all men know that you are mine, that you are my disciples, if you have love one to another." This is a powerful idea. It's pretty easy to see that Jesus says, if you love, or if you have God's love, it will be easy to be seen. And it will be seen in how we interact with one another. This is why relationship is so important. That's what transcends religion, to where you can be doing something just out of habit. But the difference with a relationship is that a real relationship is lived out of heart. Even though there may be habits because of the state of the heart, but the source and the start of it all, it's the heart. Jesus says, if you love me, you're going to love others. And that's how people will know that guy is different. That girl guy is something special, because they love me. Meaning now that if this is what Jesus said, it actually becomes a commandment. And this commandment have we from him, that he who loveth God love his brother also. Look at this now. Loving each other is a commandment. I'm just going to let that settle for a second, because knowing that this is a commandment, we often think of the 10, which they are in Exodus, but the principles, the nails that we hang those 10 commandments on, Jesus has told us, is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, soul, body. And then on the other hand, and the other nail is to love your neighbor as yourself. On these do all the commandments, all 10, any commandment you can think of from God, any word from God, they all hang on this. This is important because there is some confusion. There's this confusion that, okay, we've got to keep this commandment, which is to love one another, and that's what I want to do. But we never, ever keep God's commandment at the expense of God's commandments. I'll say that again. We're never called to keep God's commandment, which is to love each other, at the expense of his commandments. How can we come to this conclusion? If you keep reading now in 1 John chapter 2, it says, he that loveth his brother abideth in the light, and there is none occasion of stumbling in him. We are not called to love those in darkness by joining the darkness. I can love you as a person and be totally against, totally even abhorrent to what you might do. It happens all the time. As a parent, I know that I have children. And the reason why I know that my children are not perfect is because their daddy is not perfect. There are things that my children do that you could say get on my nerves. But then there's some things I would just like, hey, if I had it my way, I would just program, or I would just push this button where they did not do this or they did not do that. But I don't have that power. And guess what? Neither does God. By giving us free choice now, he gives us the chance to choose where we're going to stand, whether we're in the light or the dark. But the fact that he's given us the choice, that's one sign of his love. And because God gives us the choice of whether to stand in the dark or the light, it doesn't mean that because he loves us to stand in the dark. God hates sin so much. Yes, he loves us so much. But let's take John 3:16 and really press that thing out. God loved the world so much, and he hates sin so much, that he gave us his only son, that whoever believes in him will escape the darkness and enter into light, aka also known as eternal life. And because of this, the mark of the Christ life is not just that we just go along to get along. It's that we go to everyone to tell everybody, wherever you are, there is a light. There is a light life. There is a Christ life. And our lives are redeemed in order for us to love our God again through Jesus Christ. This is why I hope we see that the mark of the Christ life is someone who loves people and wants all people to be saved. Someone who loves no matter what someone does, but refuses to ever relent, accept, or let them go and just dwell in darkness because I love them so much. No, I can't make that choice. We're not called to force. We're not called to compel. We're not even called to command necessarily. We are called to share. While we may be called to confront, we cannot convict. That's the work of God in us. That is the work of His Spirit operating on the heart and operating on the mind. But He cannot operate. God cannot operate without people knowing. That's where we come in. But please make sure the mark of the Christ life, we love God enough and we love our brothers and sisters enough to tell them the truth.